Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we interview local columnist Matthew Owen about whether the high cost and low supply of local housing has effectively killed the American dream of home ownership. Also, Cal Poly Humboldt recently broke ground on a project to more than double the number of available student housing units. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. At this very moment, I have two young adult children who are actively looking for an affordable place to live. They're both exhausted and frustrated by the process of searching out viable options, filling out forms, competing with dozens of other applicants, and ultimately, so far at least, being denied because they don't have the rental experience or the income necessary to beat out the dozens and dozens of other wannabe tenants. It's a long and formidable process that has no guarantee of success. You just have to keep plugging away until you get lucky. And when you're as young as they are, it can certainly seem like that day will never come. Housing, particularly in California, is rapidly rising out of most folks' price range. And there's an ongoing debate as to what the cause of those skyrocketing costs actually are. Is it merely a lack of supply? Or is it profit-minded private equity firms who've jumped into the residential real estate game and exacerbated demand? Our guest tonight, columnist Matthew Owen from the Times-Standard, wrote a piece recently. It all starts with housing, placing at least some of the blame on the state and local regulatory environments. His argument is one we've all heard before, but it comes up just as the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors is considering additional development fees. When I was growing up, it was considered a given that most of my friends and I would grow up, start families, and buy a house of our own. It was the template for what most of us have long called the American dream. The question now has to be asked, is that dream dead? We'll be right back.
Friends and supporters of Kite TV, we are calling all who have a passion for public television on the North Coast. Kite is looking for a diverse group of people to join its Community Advisory Board, or CAB. CAB members play an advising role to management and act as Kite's ambassadors within the community. Meetings are held quarterly on Zoom. Go to kite.org, find the link for CAB, and get involved today. We look forward to meeting you.
When should developers pay for their impacts or for the impacts their projects have on the public? County government is trying to answer that question for large residential, commercial, and industrial construction projects located outside incorporated cities. Currently, staff analyzes how a project will affect, for example, roads, sidewalks, public safety needs, and demand for parks. At the end of what can ultimately be a multi-year environmental review, or EIR, the county charges the developer for the projected increase in demand on government services. But in her first major initiative since assuming office in January, 4th District Supervisor Natalie Arroyo this week proposed that the county proactively analyze the relationship between growth and demand on services, without regard to a specific project. Then when developers propose a project, the county will apply a formula to charge a development impact fee.
We're the only county in California that does not have development impact fees. There's going to be substantial development on the Samoa Peninsula, for example, a place that really has pretty limited infrastructure. But it would be good to confer with our counterparts in the cities to understand what their appetite is for this.
I think a lot of people are going to be on a diet when it comes to an appetite for this. It's easy for us to say, pay a little bit more, it won't hurt. But the idea of actually selling a house and being affordable housing and everything else, it just goes completely out the window through the private sector. We need to try to get what we can built to meet these needs, or the needs aren't going to be met.
The real fear is that it's going to end up costing more money. We'll establish a secondary bureaucracy, we're going to add more steps, and the environmental impact reports and all the other mitigation are still going to need to happen.
That would all be known up front. A developer would be able to calculate their costs up front. They would not have to go through an entire process to get through the EIR to understand what the fees are.
I don't actually think it's a great process for people to go through years of planning and studies and invest significantly in a development and then learn at the end what additional costs are going to be added. I really do not intend to add an extra cost, but rather to add that level of clarity. Having a comprehensive study that helps identify those costs up front, I see as frankly a boon to development.
Housing cost right now, just to build a single-family home, has reached $300 a square foot without the land. We have solar that has to be put in, which is probably $20,000. Fire sprinklers, that is $10,000. We have a lot of fees, and to add another $10,000 fee is horrendous to this building community. It is probably not the right time.
I've never heard the development community say, this is a good time to consider development fees. It's always in challenging times. Recreational districts are really popular and have been for a long time. There have been fees around that because they bring very popular infrastructure to communities and neighborhoods. And it actually is valuable to people's property values and public safety.
With Michelle Bushnell dissenting, the board directed staff to research facilities and programs that could be supported by development impact fees. Separately, in March, Eureka City Schools reversed a previous decision and decided not to impose development impact fees. Joining us now in studio is Matthew Owen, columnist with the Times-Standard, and he wrote a column this week about housing and the costs that are rising. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you again. So first off, let's start with what your column is and how long you've been doing it.
My column's called Matthew in the Middle. I think I started it in 2012 at the Lost Coast Outpost.
Okay.
And I kicked over the Times-Standard probably about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And they just let me write an opinion piece of what I think's happening out there in our local community, or sometimes what's happening in the country.
Yeah. What do you try and focus on? Is there a focus that you stick to?
I want to get some inspiration for what happened this week, and then write it for people can read it on Sunday. So hopefully by Friday something's actually happened this week.
Yeah, I have that feeling too sometimes. You're like, come on, something happened. So you are, you have some passion about this particular issue. I know, since we've had these conversations before. But first off, I mean, what do you think about Natalie's proposal in terms of, the steps that she said to potentially assess for?
I think it's a start that we have to pay for impact fees. However, I think there's better ways of doing it.
Okay.
The developers aren't going to pay the impact fees.
Yeah.
They may be charged that, but if you charge me an extra $10,000, $20,000 per house, guess what I'm going to do if I'm a developer? I'm going to pass it on to the home buyer with a profit margin on top of that.
Yeah.
So all it's going to do is make housing more expensive, and a lot of times it just doesn't pencil out. Can you name a single house that's being built in Eureka? One single house.
Not off the
You're
top
going
of
to
my
think,
head.
I drive around a lot.
Yeah.
I can't see a single house. Can you name a single apartment that's being built in Eureka?
Not if it's not senior housing. There's some senior housing going up.
Some senior housing is going up.
Yeah.
Right, a couple of those, and usually those are on the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
But literally, we have one low-income project coming in at Myrtle there, and outside of that, there's almost nothing being built for housing in the city of Eureka.
Yeah.
And as I said in my article, HSU is expanded to grow by 6,000 students,
Yeah.
faculty, administrators, staff. The wind farms are estimated to bring at least 2,000 new people here.
Wow.
Nordic Fish Farms is talking about 150 people here, and that's just three major things off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That's almost 9,000 people coming here. Where are they going to live?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what's that going to do to the market? I mean, obviously you got 9,000 more names to throw into the hat my sons are wrestling with right now.
Right, like your children are dealing with.
Yeah. It's like it becomes even more impossible, especially when a lot of those people are right in the middle of their lives and hopefully have some income behind them, and that makes them more attractive tenants.
And most projects take at least a year to 2 years to come online.
Yeah.
If I say I got a piece of land and I go to a architect and say, draw me up this for a 20-unit apartment complex, if I'm lucky, it's going to be done in a year and a half.
Okay. Now, one of the things you've talked a lot about is the regulatory environment of the state of California, and then also the local area that those environments form a disadvantage for developers in this region. Can you describe that or elaborate on that for us?
Ask any developer what they're developing here in Humboldt County. It's
Yeah.
primarily commercial projects. Outside of Danco, who's got it down how to do low to moderate income projects using tax credits.
Yeah, in partnership with the governments, typically, like Arcata.
It doesn't pencil otherwise.
Yeah.
There's no other developer doing those.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what do you think, if the county were to focus on that end of the problem, so to speak, what kind of changes would you like to see that you think would make it more copacetic for developers to get projects done?
Well, the other problem we deal with in California, as I pointed out in the article, our insulation's double what the national average is.
Yeah.
So it means
insulation for the walls.
Walls and ceilings,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's double, which doubles the cost of insulation.
When you say double the amount.
The thickness,
Okay.
it's huge compared to, and you go to Texas, it's half that size.
Yeah, yeah.
California also requires ADA requirements in all new developments. California requires fire sprinklers. Ask any person who's building a house or apartment what fire sprinklers cost. California is now requiring solar on any new residential development. All these things just drive up cost.
Yeah, and make it harder for people to build.
And more expensive.
Exactly. So what changes would you like to see in terms of like the local building department?
Well, the local building department's hamstrung by Sacramento.
Sure.
And that's the biggest problem. And if you go to Sacramento and say, we got to loosen these restrictions, they're going to go, CEQA, California Environment and Quality Act, basically gives a way for anyone can file a lawsuit against you, whether it's an environmental group or just neighbors who don't want your project near them. We're one of the only states in the nation that allows that.
Yeah. So, I mean, but people will argue that those kinds of regulations, or at least, like CEQA, are meant to protect the local environment and protect the impact or prevent the impact of those projects on making other people's lives worse because of those projects. How do you do that if you don't have those regulations? How do you make sure that, developers abide by, the rules?
They have to abide by the rules, but how many rules do you want to put on them?
Yeah, yeah.
You're just going to make it harder and harder, and most importantly, more expensive and more expensive to build. A starter home should be at $250,000. Stop laughing.
That'd be
probably
great.
start at $350,000, but there are no starter homes out there.
Yeah.
I don't know of a single home, like I said, I can't tell you a single home or tract that's being built in Humboldt County.
Yeah. I remember looking at homes 5-7 years ago, and it was like $250,000 was kind of maybe a price you could find. That has totally been blown out of the water now, and you're starting to get into $400,000 for someone to come in off the street and buy their first house. Who has that kind of equity starting out?
Or the income.
Yeah, exactly right.
Just the other day, I met with a gentleman who's he's just trying to subdivide land down in Fortuna. It's taken him 5 years and $500,000 million to get to where he might be able to sell the lots.
Wow.
Does that sound like something you want to do? Taking $500,000 out of your pocket before you make a dime of income, and take 5 years of your life with attorneys and specialists and bringing in all these outside people to write reports?
Yeah.
But that's California.
Yeah. Now, some areas, are more considered more friendly to developers, like Fortuna. They've had more growth than a lot of other cities. What do you think are they doing something different that attracts some of that, or?
They have land.
They have land.
You tell me where there's an open space of land in Eureka. Now, there are some open lots here and there, but some of these lots have been vacant for 10, 20, 50 years.
Yeah.
I would like to see the city of Eureka go into whoever owns them and says, hey, we'd like you to develop this. You're in the middle of a residential zone. You got a piece of dirt here. Let's put up a house, apartment, something.
Yeah, yeah. And some of those properties have environmental issues and would require some remediation. Should the government be in the business of helping developers take care of some of that work? Or
I'd like to see low-cost loans or something to get it. If it put a housing out there, yeah. But what about the person who owns a lot right in the middle of, say, I Street that's been vacant for 20, 50 years?
Yeah.
What good is that doing the city?
Absolutely. In the past, there were lawsuits that were filed against the county for some of its practices in this regard. I remember the county was sued over its housing element, the portion of its general plan. Do you think that it's gotten better about how it plans for future housing, or are we still struggling in that regard?
Are we seeing any additional housing coming up?
That's the process, though.
I understand. But if the county's supposed to be out there promoting housing, tell me where it's being built right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All you have to do is look at the numbers.
Yeah. Cool. So you write in your column that published, I guess, last Sunday. Is that right?
Last Sunday.
Okay. 25 years ago, the local regressives decided they wanted Humboldt County to be like Marin. No development, no housing, no nothing. I got mine, and I don't care if you get yours. This led us to where we are today. My question is that fair, or isn't some regulation required to ensure that developers do consider the public's impacts?
I think developers do that with public impact, but Kurt Kramer's on 27 years between, hey, I've got an idea on this plot of land to put in a house.
27 years?
27 years before he filed his permits until he sells his first house. That's from Alicia Hayes, the county administrative officer, who spoke at a Rotary Club.
Wow, 27 years for one project.
One project, and it's still not done.
Wow.
So if you're a developer and you're hearing stories and you're talking around developers in this county, would you want to come here from outside the area when this guy says, yeah, you might get it done in 25 years?
Yeah.
Other places, you do it in 25 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not Humboldt County.
Yeah. Wow.
One other story. One guy talked about in Fortuna, they had him basically do a culvert where they wanted the water to go. So the water went down this one spot of his land. Guess what happened when the water pooled there? It now became a wetland. Now it's environmentally protected and you can't do anything with it.
Because of retention of water that happened because of what
they had a
built.
big mud puddle effectively, but now they call it a wetland. And in California, wetlands that's a no-go.
Yeah. Now, so one of the things, using language like regressives, it makes me think back to not necessarily a lot. There's been an ongoing debate in Humboldt County about progress versus quality of life.
Versus no progress.
Yeah, as you
regressives.
Okay, sure, but where do we find that balance? How do we strike that balance? Like, people love Humboldt County because it's Humboldt County. There's the adjacency of the coast and the mountains and the trees and the state of the environment, the lack of crowding, the lack of traffic, all that kind of stuff.
I'm agreeing with you.
So, at what point? How do we protect that? How do we protect that?
I think we're already doing that just fine.
Okay.
Like I said, in Eureka, there's not a lot of land to build on.
Yeah.
My comment about regressives came, I think it was 2002 or 2004, they had something called Measure J,
yes,
which was to stop Walmart coming to town.
And it was a huge political battle.
They wanted to go into the balloon track.
So the balloon track, possibly a Walmart, was the proposal.
They beat Walmart and kept Walmart out. So Walmart said, screw you. They wanted in a principally occupied area in the mall, and now Walmart's been there 10 years?
Yeah.
So what did they accomplish?
Well, some would say that Walmart is limited to the size it could bring in, and therefore limits the impact that business can have on places like Old Town or downtown, those kinds of retailers, because it wasn't able to build a mega Walmart.
Okay.
What would you say to that?
You're right. They didn't, but they built a Walmart.
Yeah. They still got it in.
They got it in. All that funny for that. 2010, we voted on Measure N, where we wanted to get the balloon track done now.
Yeah.
13 years later, Coastal Commission's held it up.
Yeah.
Coastal Commission's killed more projects than cancer.
Yeah.
So,
and that is a particularly adverse set of regulations and stuff for developers, because it's within how far of the water?
One of my Rotarian friends was planning on doing a track up here in Humboldt Hill.
Yeah.
This is probably 10, 15 years ago. Humboldt Hill's in the Coastal Commission.
Yeah. Coastal zone, they call it.
Coastal zone.
Yeah,
so they told him it's going to cost you at least $500,000 in 5 years before you do anything.
Wow.
And he just said, bye, I'm done. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So there went that housing project.
Now, one thing we talked about before this show started was that some people are claiming that there's this movement of of private equity firms into the real estate market, and they're buying up parcels and selling them off at a profit, and that introduces even more competition to a flooded market. Do you think that that's having an effect, and do you think it's happening here?
And one, it's not happening here. Two, it is in major urban areas, but it's slowed down and the reverse trend's happening.
Okay.
Interest rates have doubled in the last year and a half.
Absolutely.
Where they used to, let's say Blackstone goes out and wants to buy $10 million worth of homes. They're going to go buy 20 homes in this little area of Los Angeles. They typically put up $5 million in cash and borrow $5 million for the line of credit.
Yeah.
Well, the line of credit a year and a half ago was at 4%.
Okay.
Today it's at 8 or 9%.
Gotcha.
And things just aren't penciling anymore. And plus prices they're not going up and up.
Yeah.
They've stabilized, and so firms like Blackstone are now selling off inventory.
Gotcha. That was a function of the market conditions, and that's changed, and so that's becoming less of a problem.
Yeah, it's true.
Excellent. So do you own your own home?
Yes.
How long have you been a homeowner?
Since I was 22.
Okay, 22. Wow. Congratulations. That's a successful story. How important do you think that is in terms of having a well-rounded and satisfying life? Do you find that it was a major achievement for you that young?
No, I just wanted to lock in a payment.
Yeah.
The main thing of owning versus renting, it's a personal choice, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to anyone. You have to do what you're comfortable with.
Sure, absolutely.
Buying a house allows you to buy something that you like in an area you like and locking in a payment.
Yeah.
Why, if you rent, your rent may go up and up.
Yeah.
You can have your landlord say, I'm going to go in and do massive renovations to your property, and they evict you.
Yeah.
You can have your landlord sell the property, in which case new owners come in and say, buy.
Yeah.
So all it does is it gives you a stabilization in your life if you can afford the payment and if you like the house and the neighborhood.
Yeah. So it's sort of a way
choice.
to kind of get your own finances in order.
I deal with people all the time who say, I've got cheap rent. And I say, good, keep it. Because if you're going from, if you happen to have a friend who's renting out something for $400 a month and you're looking at buying it, now it's $1,800 a month.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times now the rents are way outside of what a mortgage would ever even think of being.
I see people pay $2,000 a month rent in Rio Dell.
Oh yeah,
which I'm just my jaw drops.
Flabbergasted by it. And that had some interesting real estate demand in recent years. There was a lot of people buying in Rio Del. There was some,
Well, since they started selling the town off.
yeah.
They're literally selling the corporate town off.
Yeah, totally. The company town. Last question for you. I mean, there are a number of issues that are related and sort of part of the broader economic health picture that are exacerbated by the high cost and low availability of housing. What are some of those issues, and how much of a impact do you think it has?
Oh, I think you just nailed it with the word low availability of housing. We need to build more houses. We need to build more apartments. We need to build more of everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, due to the things we talked about with California, it's near impossible to get it done on a cost-effective basis. And plus, we don't have a lot of land available for housing developments.
Yeah.
Then we run into egg lands that you can't build housing. We have California Coastal Commission. We're not going to put up condos on the Trinidad coast, so
Yeah.
there's just issues there where this town is entirely different than, say, Malibu
Yeah.
or Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
But some people like it to be different, and they want it to be slow growth, and we want no housing. So guess what's going to happen as people come here?
Yeah.
And you have a limited supply, and yet demand grows.
Yeah.
Prices are going to go up for rent. Prices are going to go up for housing.
It seems like in a lot of other issues there has to be a balance of considering, the demand for housing and supplying that demand, but then also maintaining the quality of life that so many people seem to love. Do you think such a balance is possible?
Yeah, but like I said, if I was the city of Eureka, I'd be driving around looking at empty lots and saying, what can we do to get these built?
Yeah.
Give them the carrot or the stick.
Infill, basically, with stuff that's
Infill what's already here. That's
Yeah.
in residential zones.
Yeah.
So it's not in the Coastal Commission. But I got to tell you, I've had people literally yell at me because they have an empty lot next to their house. I say, God, that'd be perfect for, a 8-unit apartment complex. And
Yeah.
boy, do they get angry.
Oh, I bet they do.
They don't want those people, like your
NIMBY.
children,
Yeah.
moving next to them.
Yeah. That's all our time for today.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. I'm sure we'll have you back. We'll be right back after this short break.
Kinetic Universe is proud to announce the Kinetic Grand Championship 2023. It all starts Saturday, May 27th and continues through the 29th, beginning at the Arcata Plaza. Make sure to show up early each day of the race for maximum glory. Day 2 water entry takes place at the Samoa Bridge, and the finish line on Day 3 is in Ferndale. This 3-day battle of the arts, engineering, and speed will be broadcast live on Kite TV and streamed online. For more information about the race, go to kineticgrandchampionship.com. The 137th Ferndale Memorial Day celebration is Monday, May 29th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Ferndale veterans, along with other organizations, coordinate a parade beginning at the Veterans Memorial Building. The parade ends at the Ferndale Cemetery for a service and the Honor Guard rifle salute, followed by taps. Please come down to Ferndale to honor the servicemen and women of our armed forces. Tune in to Kite TV for live coverage of the parade beginning at 10 a.m.
Speaking of housing, Cal Poly Humboldt officials, along with leaders from the California State University system, the community, and associated students, recently held a groundbreaking event to celebrate the largest student housing project in university history. The event celebrated the construction, now underway, of Cal Poly Humboldt's student housing project, a residence hall complex that will ultimately house nearly 1,000 students. The site is located at the former Craftsman Mall site, about half a mile north of the campus. The university anticipates the complex will be ready for occupancy in 2025, increasing university-owned student housing options by nearly 50%. The $200 million project was made possible with one-time funding from the historic $458 million investment in the university's Polytechnic effort, approved by Governor Gavin Newsom and the state legislature in 2021.
Today we are celebrating an exciting future for Cal Poly Humboldt, this community, and the region. Right now, you are standing on the grounds of what will be the newest student housing project at Cal Poly Humboldt. In fact, the opening of this residential complex, which we anticipate will open in 2025, will mark the university's first housing project in guess. 15 years. You read this script, didn't you? 15 years. This complex will provide nearly 1,000 students a place to live and, more importantly, a place to learn. Students are drawn to Cal Poly Humboldt for many reasons. Many of you who are alumni in the audience came here for some of those reasons, such as our academic programs, our stunning location, and our emphasis on hands-on learning. Another reason is our students want to have a positive and safe college experience while at Humboldt. This project helps. As a residential campus, we are trying to create a place where students can thrive all the years that they are in this community. Building a vibrant residence hall away from home may bring that sense of belonging that is critical to the success of all students who choose to come to Cal Poly Humboldt. This project underscores Cal Poly Humboldt's exciting future as a polytechnic. Student housing will be the first facility built as part of our polytechnic agenda. It also demonstrates our commitment to honor the designation with great responsibility as we continue to maintain the commitment to invest infrastructure resources for our polytechnic transformation. This will be the first of many new housing facilities and our other structures built as the university continues to grow in our enrollment in the coming years. So much of what we do at Cal Poly Humboldt is made possible through collaboration across the campus, with the community, with our tribal partners, and with the College of the Redwoods. Lastly, this is all possible because of the incredible financial investment from the state legislature and Governor Newsom. The project was funded by 2021-2022 state appropriation, higher education student housing grant program funds, and the CSU system-wide revenue bonds. I conclude my remarks by personally thanking Senator Mike McGuire, Assemblymember Jim Wood, and Congressman Jared Huffman for their continued support of Cal Poly Humboldt. Thanks.
This weekend, art will take to the skies during the second annual Redwood Kite Festival. The event will be held May 20th and 21st at Halverson Park in Eureka. The event is being put on by artists and galleries associated with the Ink People Center for the Arts. The event is free of charge. For more information, visit www.humboldtkiters.org. I wish I could fly like that. Maybe I flap my arms fast enough and get off the ground. Anyhow, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned, stay informed.